Good morning. Hope you're doing well this Wednesday morning and are ready to come. We're going to finish out this idea of how God protects us from ourselves with one final thought today. It's kind of a big one, but I'm going to give you a lot of reference verses. We don't have time to read them all today, but just think about this. So, God protects us from ourselves by giving us a conscience. Now, right off the bat, I need to put an asterisk there because you may have a conscience that you can trust, or your conscience may not be completely trustworthy. It depends. It depends on a lot of things. So, like I said, this is a big subject. So, but what does the word actually mean? It's the Greek word, I don't know if I'll pronounce this correctly, but it's sunadisis, which literally means a knowing with. A knowing with. And it's referring to the individual. So your conscience is your own co-knowledge, so to speak, of yourself. You are aware of you. You are aware of how you think, who you are. That is your conscience. It is you speaking to you. Interesting idea here, but it's kind of hard to describe in words, and yet we all know what our conscience is when it speaks to us, right? It is, some other kind of fuller definitions. It is the witness born to one's conduct. So your conscience is the witness to how you act, and your conscience speaks to that. It can produce guilt before God, and guilt's a dirty word in a lot of people's minds, and yet guilt can be an actual positive thing in people's lives if it redirects us away from a destructive path and puts us on a pure path. Your conscience distinguishes what it considers morally good or bad, commending the good and condemning the bad. Okay. Now, what do I mean when I say that, we got to put an asterisk, because sometimes our conscience can actually not be up to the task? Well, here's some scripture references for you, okay, that talk about our conscience. Number one, your conscience can be weak. It can be weak. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 7, 10, and 12 speak to this. Your conscience can be weak. Your conscience can be evil. Now, when I say your conscience, I'm talking about any, generically a human being, okay? Your conscience can actually be evil. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 22. Your conscience can be defiled. Titus chapter 1, verse 15. Your conscience can be purified, cleaned up, okay? Hebrews chapter 9, verse 14. Your conscience can be purified. Your conscience can be good. It can be good. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, verse 19. So, imagine this. You're born into a family that for generations sincerely believes that it's wrong, it's a sin, it's evil to eat brown eggs. You only got to eat white eggs. If an egg is brown, you cannot eat it. It's evil to eat that brown egg. You're brought up with this. knowledge. You don't see anybody in your family ever eating a brown egg. They talk about it constantly. Don't eat brown eggs. And they may have a long list of the reasons why. And you buy into that. You actually believe that it's a sin, that it's an evil thing to do to eat a brown egg. Now, what happens if you become weak and you get too curious? And you decide, I'm going to eat one just to see. And you eat that brown egg. What happens? Well, it probably didn't taste any different, right? Or maybe even taste better. But what happens when you did that? In your own mind, you are doing something that you have been taught is wrong to do. You are, in your own mind, disobeying God. So the question is it a sin to eat a brown egg? Yes and no. For you who have been brought up and you sincerely believe it's a sin to eat a brown egg, and then you consciously, willfully do so anyway, you are in your own mind, your own conscience is telling you, I am disobeying God, I am sinning against God. And as soon as you actually really believe that, guess what? It is a sin. Now, somebody else who was brought up understanding that eggs are eggs. It doesn't matter whether it's brown or white. It doesn't matter, about these things. You have freedom about eating eggs. It's not an issue. That person can eat a brown egg. And it's not a sin for them because they don't believe that their conscience is not telling them that they're sinning against God. Silly example, and yet that's exactly what happens to Christians. In the first century, they had this issue over meat. Some Christians ate meat, and some Christians didn't. And the issue was that some of the meat that they bought in the marketplaces could have been previously offered to a false god. And so now in the minds of some Christians, they were thinking, if you eat that meat, you are defiling yourself. And they really, really believe that. And for a Christian who really, really believes that eating that meat defiles themselves, if they eat it, yeah, it's a sin to them. Not because there's anything special about that meat. The Apostle Paul made that clear. The real truth of the matter is, you can eat anything giving thanks to God. So our conscience can protect us, but we have to be diligent about making sure that our conscience is strong, that it's clean, that it's clear, that it is based upon real facts, real truth. And as our conscience is based on those things, it becomes a huge, powerful thing in our lives to be able to rely upon. That our conscience, ourself, you, talking to you, is whispering the things that you know is right and good and positive and constructive. And will throw you a guilt trip like crazy if you cross that line and go into things that aren't productive, that aren't positive, that are not constructive, but destructive. God protects you from yourself, but you have the personal responsibility, as far as your conscience goes, to build it up, to base your conscience upon real truth. You do that and you can actually begin to exercise a freedom in life that not too many people can experience, simply because you know what is the real truth. And you know that God himself, through his word and through the conscience that he gave you within you, you speaking to you, you can walk the path that is going to be the best path for you. Talk about your best life now? Yeah, absolutely. Your best life now and in eternity by having a good, strong, clear conscience based on truth. that's another way that God protects you from you. I hope some of this made sense. Anytime you guys got any questions about something that I might have been talking about, don't hesitate to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. All right, thanks. We'll see you next time.